So this episode is going to be focusing on just creating some sort of collectible item that we're going to place around our maze that we can use to increase the score. So then we're moving from just getting from the start to the end of the maze to also adding a little bit of depth to it. We want to see who can get the highest amount of points. You want to complete the maze and get all the points and find all the items. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sprite for this object that we're going to be collecting. So I'm going to go over here to my sprites. And again, just going to be creating a quick placeholder, nothing too fancy. So I'm going to go to create sprite. I'm going to go to edit image. I'm just going to get a circle shape. And I'm going to make a nice pink circle over here, like that. Hold shift to make it a perfect circle. There we go. Like that. I quite like that. Nice and simple. And then I'm going to rename it. So right click. Rename, I'm going to call it sprite dot, because it's just going to be a little dot, sort of like you might find in the Pac-Man games or any of those older sort of arcade games. I'm going to go back over to my room just because I like to be able to look and think about where I'm going to place it. But before I place it anywhere, I'm obviously going to have to create an object for it as well. So this is the picture we're going to use, but the object is where we actually place the code and actually make it do something useful. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to go to create object, and I'm going to call it object underscore dot. And the sprite I'm going to use is, go to sprites, go to sprite dot. There we go. Now then, at the moment, I haven't actually got a score variable at all. So I haven't got anything that I'm using to store the score. Now I could create a variable within this dot object to store my score, but that's not really going to be a good idea because I want to have multiple dots, I want to have lots of dots, and I also want them to disappear or to be destroyed when the player bumps into it, which also means that the variable itself will be destroyed. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go back onto my player object. I'm going to double click on the player object. I'm going to go to the create code. So this is where we set the speed before. And I've already put it there. It shouldn't already be there, but I'll delete that and I'll pretend that I'm doing it as if I've known it before. So I'm going to create a variable called score. I'm going to set it to 0. However, there is a bit of a problem here. There's a bit of an error I've made here. And what I actually should be doing is saying global.score. Now, what that means is that instead of it being a variable that can only be used by my player object, okay, this is going to be a variable that can be used by other objects. Because usually when we create a variable, so this player speed variable only actually belongs to the player sprite. The X movement variable only belongs to the player sprite, and it can't be changed by any of these other objects, neither can the Y movement. But by creating a global variable, this means that it's a variable that can be used, changed, modified, and seen by any other object in our game. And that's what we want. We want the dot object to be able to change this variable, because what we want is the score to increase by, 10, 100, 50, whatever, when the player collects it. So that's all I need to do for now. Just global.score on the player characters. Add that to the create code. And I go back to my dot object now. And I'm going to go to add event. And this event now is going to be all the way down here. It's going to be a collision event. So I want this to happen when we collide with the player. So when this dot bumps into the player, or when a player bumps into this dot, as we click on that, we go to OK. And we want it to do this. We want it to take the score variable. Score equals score plus 100. And then we also just want this object to destroy itself. We want it to disappear. So to destroy the instance, we're going to go instance underscore destroy. I'm just going to write self. So we just want it to destroy itself. That's that for now. If I run this game, actually, I'll go back to my room and I'll put some of these in. So one there, and maybe one over here. We'll just put them sporadically, different places for now. Put one more over here. So I'm going to run the game. This should run without any issues, I think. So there we go. I'm going to touch that. There we go. It disappears. Now I have got this variable called score, but at the moment we're not actually seeing the score. And that's because we haven't actually told it to draw the score anyway. So I'm going to go off this. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back onto the object player. So object player over here. Double click on this. I'm going to go now and add another event onto this. So go to add event. I'm going to go to the draw events now. We've got quite a few different draw events. And I'm going to go for the draw GUI. That's a graphical user interface. Now this is a tool that we can use to draw things on the screen that always appear on top of everything else. So you'll normally see this in games for things like your health bar, your energy bar, maybe items, anything that's on the screen that's not actually part of the actual world, but rather information for the player to use. So I'm going to click on this. So on the draw GUI layer, I now want to draw some text. So all I want to do, I'm going to say draw text. And I'm going to have it, and you'll see down here, okay, it might be a bit hard to see. It says draw text, and you can see in the bracket it says X, Y string. Okay, so we're going to make it 10X, so it goes in 10 pixels to the right, and then the next one is going to be 10Y, so it's going to go 10 pixels down, and then string, and the string we want it to show, the text we want it to show, is our score. So draw text 10, 10 score. There we go. And that should be enough. We'll just double check. There you go. That doesn't look like it's going to be giving us any errors. So I'm going to click play. There we go. And you can see up here now I've got a 0. And when I bump into this, there we go. It goes up to 100. There you go. 200, 300, 400. If you want to customize this at all, we can go to this font section. We can go to, we can right click on it, create a new font. And over here we can choose a font. So maybe you might want to make it a little bit bigger. You might have noticed that font was really small. Set it to about size 24. Select the font. So you can choose any font that's built into the computer. That one's quite hideous. Let's try something else. Montserrat. That sounds a good name. Ooh, I like that. There you go. So I'm going to go with that one. And I'm going to call it, I'm going to rename the font. I'm going to call it Score Font. Score Font, or the other way around actually. Font underscore score. Here we go. I'm going to go back onto my code for my player object. And so before it draws the text, I'm going to want to set the font. So draw, set, font, brackets again, and I'm going to say the font I want it to use in brackets there. So font score, close that, semicolon. Let's run it. It should be looking good now. There we go. So there we go. 100, 200, 300. Oh, and there we go. So that is how we implement a score system into our game. Thanks for watching.